Hello and welcome. Azerbaijan aimed to revive its historical role as a commercial bridge between the East and West, North and South. Part of these tasks assigned to the Baku International Sea Trade Port. Talek Ziyadov, the Director General of this establishment, is our host, who will tell us firsthand about plans of the organization. Dr. Ziyadov, thank you for your time.
It's always a pleasure.
Before being appointed as a Director General of Port of Baku, you have been working on a subject, Azerbaijan's position as a logistic hub. As I know, in 2011, you did publish a book, Azerbaijan as a Regional and Transportational Hub in Central Asia. What brought you to think about Azerbaijan's role as a logistic distribution and transportation hub back those days?
It may be said that I came to the subject by pure accident, actually, because the rector of the university at the time in 2008, I guess it was, we were thinking about topics that are going to be quite relevant, strategic for Azerbaijan in post-oil era. And one of the subjects were really about transportation logistics. So it was really the rector Hafiz Pashaev who convinced me to take this subject for a research. As you know, the topic is very interesting and there is a lot of talk about Silk Road, new Silk Road, but what was missing really, a comprehensive analysis, a study, whether or not Azerbaijan could become a transport and logistic hub in this new revived Silk Road. And it took about 2.5 years to study this subject, so I did travel a lot to neighboring parts, also to other countries, to hub countries, including Dubai and Singapore. And it did come up at the end of the day as a book, which was published again by ADA. And I'm very happy that some parts of it I get to realize today.
So far I understand that subject in ADA University become as an idea for the port slogan today, your port,
your hub
in Eurasia.
In Central Eurasia. Part of it is it's a part of the branding, how we position. So this the research really was a justification in a way, showing that this is a true and correct policy really, because the research and statistics and all the ingredients behind this really support that there is a chance for Azerbaijan to become a hub, but certainly there are many ingredients that need to come to play for it to succeed.
And what are those ingredients?
Those ingredients really, I personally found them in the history of the Silk Road. Because as you know, 1,000 years ago we didn't have big ocean liners and containers. Everything was done by camels. And camels, the way they had a physical limitation in terms of traveling, every day traders with the camels, they traveled about 40 kilometers a day. So every 40 kilometers you had to stop. There used to be some sort of caravanserai where you rested, fed your animals. Every 200, 250 kilometers or so you had slightly larger caravanserais, and then, but your destination really was about 1,000 kilometers, and this was the megapolis. Bukhara, Samarkand, Baghdad, Merv, Tabriz, Aleppo, Jerusalem, Istanbul, these were the big megapolises, 5 stars in a way, connected to a smaller caravanserais along the way, and connecting big markets, and everything really happened in these megapolises. These were Silicon Valleys of the ancient times. So in order to revive the new Silk Road, you really need to look back and understand how the Silk Road used to function in those days and how we can really bring it back with the new modern changes and modes of transportation that were introduced more recently, like rail, like ports, larger ports, like containers, and all those things.
And here is the question, how we can replicate what happened years ago to the present days?
Azerbaijan used to act as a hub in this part Berda, for example, Mingachevir, Şamaxı. These are prominent cities of Azerbaijan, and for many years these cities acted as a trading hub for the region, for the entire trading routes along this both north-south and also east-west. What we have now in the 21st century is, especially with the Chinese One Belt One Road initiative, we are going to see in the next 10 to 20 years the emergence of new hubs. These would be 5-star hubs, 3-star hubs, and 1-star hubs, but they are certainly going to connect to each other and serve as interconnecting nodes that will generate new economic life and contribute to the non-oil economy of the country. So the duplication or a copying in a way stems from the concept of hub. If you manage to create a successful hub and attract international businesses to that hub, then your mission will be completed. And certainly this is going to also benefit your neighboring countries, which we hope that our hub will also have a positive spillover effect.
What role of Azerbaijan do you see in this big idea, mega idea?
President Xi Jinping's One Belt One Road initiative really kind of took off starting around 2013. But Azerbaijan has been developing this idea for much longer. The implication of it really is that now we, looking for our project in a way slightly different, now we see that we will be able to realize it to the top of its potential because of the Chinese involvement. And not only Chinese, but also Indian involvement, European involvement, and all the other countries that are interested in the Silk Road idea in the first place. But what we're missing really was, in a way, a locomotive. The trains were there, the locomotive was missing. And it seems to me that China, and particularly President Xi Jinping, is now going to act like locomotive and make sure that the train moves and reaches its final destination.
Mr. Ziyadov, Azerbaijan is going to host next year a very big event, major event in this business, World Ports Conference. What is your expectations in this regard?
This is an important event. As you know, Port of Baku is a member of International Association of Ports and Harbors. This is a large international organization that is host of members from around the world. These members are primarily ports and also associated businesses that work with the ports. And more than 300 members out of about 90 countries gather every year in various countries to discuss issues related to new technologies, know-hows, innovations in the port business. And it's an honor for us to host the next year, 2018 World Ports Conference in Baku. It's going to be in May of 2018. And all the ports from around the world are going to gather in Baku. This also signifies the importance of Baku and the attention and interest of international businesses, ports and associations to Baku and Azerbaijan in particular. And as you know, with the One Belt One Road initiative now, our subject has become much more interesting. So we look forward to hosting all these guests and discussing quite innovative and interesting, having interesting discussions next year.
Tell us about the advancement of the three-phase construction works of the new port in Alat.
As you know, traditionally, Baku, Port of Baku used to be probably the only and the ancient port in Baku. And what we see really in downtown, it's also what we refer as old Port Baku. And where we are moving, it's going to be the new Port of Baku in Alat. The construction is going in 3 phases, but the most important part is the current first phase, which is planned to be finished primarily by the end of this year. Most of the construction on infrastructure will be completed, with the remaining maybe a building or 2 that will be finished by the summer of the next year. So, but then the second phase and the third phase, that will be open for the investments from the international parties or from private companies as well. The first phase really going to generate about 15 million throughput capacity port, which is, for the time being, it's a good capacity in terms of that it will be handling enough cargo that exists. As the cargo throughput increases, then we will start thinking about the second and third phase. So Port of Baku, in its meaning, the new one, is really about, is not just about port. As I said, in the past, these caravansaray or big megapolises, it were not about a stopover place. It was not just about a transit. Traders used to come to big megapolises to trade. They used to learn something, sell something, buy something, and move on. To create this added value in your port, that's where this free zone concept or a free trade zone concept comes in. So in Alat, obviously, the concept of development of Alat is not just about moving one port to another place. It's about creating an environment which will generate enough economic value for your non-oil economy as a whole. So it is a concept of a port, of a free zone, new town, and maybe in the future also a dedicated airport. And when you put all these two things together, you have a very interesting project that an international business really would want to invest in.
I'd like to, you said something about creating a free trade zone, and I'd like to stretch our attention on the creation of that zone. How this economic zone is advancing now?
So as you know, last year in March, Mr. President signed a decree, and together with the Ministry of Economy, Port of Baku, we have been working on making sure that all the preparation works for establishment of this zone is done properly. And that is, properly means up to a best international standard. In September of last year, we signed a consultancy agreement with DP World. DP World is one of the leading companies, trade and logistic companies and port operating companies in the world. They operate about 77 ports and free zones around the world, quite experienced. They are the ones that set up the first free zone in the Middle East, particularly Jebel Ali. So they have vast experience in this business. And that was the reason why we kind of invited DP World to consult us on creation of this zone. We are not setting up a zone that is in the past. We are not setting up a zone that is for the today. We are setting up a zone that is for the future. So what that zone might be and what sort of services may be provided in this zone have to be thought very carefully with the existing conditions around the free zone concepts from around the world. So we think that what we have come up with is quite unique, and that's going to have a far-fetched implications for the economy of Azerbaijan.
I have a question. You said before with caravansarais, people were coming from different hubs, so to speak, at that time. They've been exchanging ideas, goods and commodities, and other things. And creating free trade zone, it's not something new, but it's going to be implication with special new modern ingredients. And what are those ingredients you are trying to right now to develop in this free trade zone, and who is involved in that? What agencies, entities, companies, organizations are involved in this?
I think the key in this, the world has seen a number of free zones, special economic zones, but only very little part of it really succeeded. And I think what we have is we have a package that has a very high chance of succeeding. And the reason for that is simple, because we have looked at the best practices from around the world, and all of them point to one key ingredient that must be there, and it's a legal regime. As you know, Azerbaijan has experienced with the production sharing agreements in the oil sector for some time. This is probably one of the most successful case studies to be presented to any students of political science or political economy.
Why?
Because the way it was handled, production sharing agreement, and not many young people would not maybe remember that much the conditions of Azerbaijan in 1990s. But in the middle of the war, in the middle of economic crisis, the late leader, Heydar Aliyev, signed a production sharing agreement, and multiple of them actually, what we refer as a contract of the century, in 1994. This was, in my view, it's a revolutionary thought. What we see in this project, we in a way duplicate that model. Production sharing agreement, it's a legal regime, it's a separate legal regime that governs the oil sector. What we have prepared a law, dedicated law for Alat free zone. And for that purpose, as you know, there has been a new working group has been created, and Vice Speaker of the Parliament has been appointed as a chair of this working group. So we think that with this team, the final version of the law, which has been drafted according to most advanced international standards and investments and the requests or the needs, it looked into all sorts of demands of potential investors and incorporated in the law. So this is quite advanced law that is going to serve for the generations to come. And the law is there, and the product is there, the location of Azerbaijan is there. It has very stable political, macroeconomic climate. And in the region, I think we have very high chances of becoming a hub for the entire Eurasia. So this zone is not created for Azerbaijan alone. It is going to serve the entire region, from Iran to Central Asia to Russia to Turkey to Europe. And all the goods that are going to pass by, they most likely to stop in Alat, and additional value adds to be done to it and then re-exported to wherever they go.
Azerbaijan's location, what gives the country the best potential to become the Eurasian hub? Because there are many routes from China to Europe, even through Russia or through Kazakhstan. What gives Azerbaijan better possibilities to advance in this initiative which China started, One Belt One Road, comparing to other players?
Really, everything boils down to your value proposition. So basically, what do you offer for international business, international companies, for them to choose you as opposed to choose an alternative location? And first of all, your location, macroeconomic, political stability, your relationship with neighbors, your economic ties with the immediate neighbors and also big alliances. All these things act, and they are very important for a choice of international investors when they decide to come and invest for a long term. But the most important part, it's the legal regime, a legal protection that you provide for multi-billion-dollar investors that want to come to you, invest in your country, and stay here for a long term. And I think we have it, and our prepared draft law is going to respond to those challenges. And certainly the political environment, the proven track record of Azerbaijan as a reliable international partner, especially with the oil businesses, are going to be helping Azerbaijan to do it the same in the non-oil sector.
So that kind of background of oil is going to play a crucial role now in advancing of the transport projects of Azerbaijan.
You know, Azerbaijan is not only a developing country, we are oil-rich developing country. Developing countries have a lot of problems when they develop. Oil-rich developing countries, they have even more problems because they are oil-rich, and how you use your oil money really dictates how the subsequent development is going to be. I'm happy to say that Azerbaijan has wisely used its oil resources, especially when the oil prices went up. Most of the money that Azerbaijan spent was on the infrastructure. Infrastructure is the key for development. Without infrastructure, you can't develop. Without roads, railroads, ports, airports, you can't develop. Any country that relies on the development must have good infrastructure to develop. And during all those times, really Azerbaijan has invested heavily into modernizing its railroads, its highways, its airports, its ports, and all these are coming in the right time, and now is the time to move to the next stage of the development, whereby you set up, for example, a free zone, you invite international investors, you start adding value to your non-oil economy.
Mr. Ziyadov, how do you think this new special economic zone is going to look like? The idea of the creation of building the new airport, your vision. Can you share with your vision on that?
What is being developed in Alat is really the vision of the president to have a modern, a future city, a city that is going to become a satellite town of Baku. There are a number of examples in the world whereby big cities suddenly develop much more advanced, modern satellite towns nearby. And Alat fits this model quite well. Alat is 65 kilometers south of Baku. It is at the crossroads of major corridors, east, west, and north, south. It has very good kind of land for development. It has very small township now, about 20,000 people. But in the future, out of this development, with the port, with the free zone, with the trade that is going to come into Alat, you will see the emerging new city. And that city is going to be the city of the future. And certainly how we view it, or how that future city must be, really up to in imagination. But I believe it's going to be certainly like a green city, a smart city, and hopefully a healthy city that will make a lot of international visitors want to come and live there. And it is going to be a full served city, meaning there will be port, airport, highways, seaways, marinas, etc., that any developed and future-like city should look like.
Azerbaijan as a regional financial center. What is the potential for this futuristic idea when port and free trade zone fully be operational? I know it's too far to talk about this, but your vision on that.
The notion of too far, or even the notion of futuristic, what it is to be futuristic. If you have businesses and the businesses flourish, they would automatically want to have a good, stable financial institutions to be in place to make sure that they develop further. And I think international financial center, financial institution, banking, etc., these things are going to come along the process, along the way, as we are going to develop the free zone. Because the more companies they come, they would need financing, they would need to use banking sector, they would need to store the money that they earn, and there could be no better place to store your money than, for example, Azerbaijan, under the law that we have proposed.
Mr. Ziyadov, thank you very much for the very interesting interview.
You are very welcome. Thank you for having me.
This was Talek Ziyadov, the Director General of the Baku International Sea Trade Port, and we spoke about plans of the organization to contribute to the revival of Azerbaijan's historical role as a commercial bridge between the East and West, North and South. See you.